This call is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. BL Carter here, affectionately known as Miss B, hoping that you are doing well and working on the pieces to your puzzle one at a time. Just wanted to pop in real quick and talk about genealogy. Talk about why it's important to know your history, to know your genealogy, and some of the things that I personally learned or benefited from in doing a family genealogy tracing myself. I did some years back, or at least 20 years ago. Um, First thing I will share with you is when you trace as far back as you can trace, the information that you learn is information you can pass on to your kids at the appropriate time. If you don't know the information, you can't pass it on to them. And as we know, history books are being rewritten. We know realities, the Mandela effect, are being rewritten or altered. Um, your child or your children are going to remember what you tell them. And so, if you know your family history as far back as you know it, and you begin telling them as early as you can, seeds, little pieces, one at a time, when they get to a point to have their children, they'll be able to pass down some of that same information. But some more specifics. Knowing the genealogy, knowing the family history allows you to effectively break curses. I know Sister Renetta has been talking about these curses that have been spoken over us, and that's in general. But then there are also more specific. Your great great grandmother probably, didn't get along with the neighbor around the corner, and who knows, the neighbor might have done something. Well, when you're doing the genealogy, if you're talking with the elders and this information is being passed down, at some point you're going to get wind of it. And so you may find yourself here now operating under, what may be some curse or some spoken witchcraft or whatever it is. If you don't know it, you can't break it. You can't come against it. You can't counter it. So knowing that family history, taking the time to ask the questions of the elders, as many elders as you can, as much as you can, and record as much as you can, because that makes it a primary source if you record it. Allows you to know which curses to break. It allows you to know what was done. For example, your great grandmother didn't like, she didn't get along with the neighbor around the corner, and the lady spoke a curse that, she will always be broke. She and, for the next 5 generations will always, be in poverty or something, just for example. And here you are 3 generations down, and you can't understand why you can't get a financial breakthrough. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. Well, knowing that history, knowing that family history, that there was some spoken curses or something over your family lineage, that gives you the power, the knowledge to start breaking that, to come against it. And if you continue to pass it on, you can make sure your children and your cousins and everybody else speak against it and break it. Another thing I found when I did the family genealogy was I got a sense of history, if you will, or a sense of belonging. I can't describe the feeling that I felt the first time I saw my great great grandfather's name in the census book. I'd heard about this man. I remember finding him in the courthouse marriage index, or whatever that big book is where they document the marriages. I remember finding him there. I remember finding my great grandmother in there, and several other family members. But when I got to the census records, and I went to the archives building in Atlanta, is where I did a lot of my physical research. Um, to see his name, to find it, on that microfiche, it was just a sense of belonging. And I remember I sat there, and a few tears came down my eyes, because it's like, wow, I found you. This is real. We did come from somewhere. And of course, yeah, we all come from somewhere, but it's just an overwhelming feeling. And it's almost like you're connecting with them. And I can't even describe the feeling. I just know that if you take the time to do the checking, when you get back far enough, a few generations back, and you find some relative that you may have heard about, or you may have seen a picture of, when you find them in one of those old archive documents, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of your family history coming alive right before you is just so overwhelming. And I think everyone, especially every one of us who's melanated and have had our histories and our lineages turned upside down, deserve to have that sense of, yeah, I came from somewhere. I didn't just pop up as the result of some slaves or great grandchildren of some slaves or whatever the case may be. There were real people, and these real people are in my background. Another good reason why I appreciated having done the genealogy was that I was able to highlight some good things in the family that did not necessarily get passed down. You find out what some of the skills are. You find out that you had a great aunt that, sang coloratura, soprano. You find out that, you had an uncle who was like the best carpenter in his town. You find out, all these other skills that you may not know, or that may not have been told to you. You find out all of this about your people, and it gives you a sense of pride. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. And not that you did it per se, but it says that this is where you came from. It's kind of like when we find ourselves trying to digest the fact that Black people were not always poor slaves, apes, and cavemen, not cavemen, but apes from Africa, but that we were kings and queens and warriors. And it's kind of that same concept, that same level of pride hits you when you realize, wow, my uncle, he was the best carpenter. Or my granny, she was, the best midwife. Everyone came to her to have her babies, to have their babies. Gives you a sense of pride. And it also lets you know what's in your lineage. Maybe some untapped skill that you might have. Of course, we know the medical history is important. To know the medical histories of people, why people died, especially if they were babies that died in the family. You want to know that because it's not normal for a baby to die. So if a baby died from some illness, oftentimes it was scarlet fever and things like that, but for whatever the illness, those are things you definitely want to know. If there's some other stuff going on in your family, some things skip a generation or two. And so you definitely want to know that. So if you find yourself with some medical issues, or your children or your cousins or someone that you're, on your generation level, you'll be able to share, hey, wait a minute, we had 2 generations back, uh, um, you know, pink big toes was running rampant in the family. So your toe is looking a little pink. You might want to get this checked before it gets too bad. That's an example because I don't know that having a pink big toe is even realistic, but I didn't want to put any diseases on anyone, so that's why I picked that. And of course, we know those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Those who don't know the tricks of the enemy are subject to fall for those tricks. So when we're doing that genealogy, we can know the tricks of the enemy. We can know what the enemy did, how he got your great granddaddy in such a situation, or how he was able to overtake your great 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 grandmother in some particular way, or your third cousin twice removed, or whatever, in some particular way. When you know those stories, that helps you to know how the enemy works. You know his tactics, so you can be on the lookout for them. It's not fair that you allow yourself to just not take advantage of the experiences of your ancestors and even of your peers. And that's why I do these tubes. My experiences, things that I've witnessed firsthand or I've been a part of, just, as a direct witness, I share so that you can take the pearls, pull out what you need to pull out, use it, apply it. So if it winds up having a negative consequence, so you don't get to repeat that negative consequence. If it winds up being a positive consequence or a positive outcome, then hey, that's another person who was able to benefit from it. Um, but pretty much just doing that genealogy, that sense of pride, that the medical histories, of course, breaking curses, coming against any negativity that's in your lineage. Because if it's in your lineage and you have not come against it, it's in you as well. And so if you speak against it, you come against it, that's going to help you to be a better person. Other than that, I recommend everyone do the genealogy trek. Take some time, ask your elders, get some tape recorder, get a tape recorder, use your cell phones these days. Make sure you have somewhere to dump the information to and save it. But start asking questions. Ask as many questions as you can. What did so and so do for a living? Who was his mother? Who was his father? Where were they from? Who was her mother? Who was her father? How many sisters do they have? How many brothers they have? Where do they live? Do we know where they moved to? All kinds of questions. That being the case, I challenge each one of you all. Track down some of your family. If you go back 2 generations, 5 generations, seven, however many generations you go back, just track back. And if you go back 2 or 3 generations, I promise you, the information that you obtain will become so empowering to you that you probably won't be able to stop. You're going to keep going until the information is no longer available to you, because it almost becomes like a driving, a self, an automated vehicle, a self-driving vehicle. Once it gets started, once that train gets rolling, it's going to keep moving, and it just picks up momentum actually. So that being the case, find out who you are, find out where you came from, and then turn around and use that information and pass it on. Share it with your cousins, share it at the family reunions. There's plenty of software out there. I don't necessarily recommend putting your stuff on My Family Tree or um, what is it, Ancestry.com, just because, privacy and that sort of thing and information sharing, whatever. But you can buy software, I think $49.95 for My Family Tree Maker, and input the information into there. It's a relational database. It cross references. It's awesome. Actually, I've used it quite a while. I haven't used it very much because I'm pretty much done with tracing back. So that being the case, add some more pieces to your puzzle. Go find some of those pieces to your puzzle. You guys be blessed and take care.